JT Show.
What's going on, you sexy beasts, and welcome to another episode of the Smash JT Show, my weekly episodic adventure talking about divisive issues in the video game industry and beyond sometimes. It airs every Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Kicking off this week, I have one of the craziest stories I've ever covered on this show. And it has to do with Spider-Man and one of the weirdest Easter eggs, now just sad for the party involved. But if you're not familiar, the new Spider-Man game that had released on PlayStation 4 recently had been contacted by a dude who was planning on proposing to his girlfriend at the time, Maddie. And I say at the time because they're actually no longer together. But back in May of 2018, he sent this tweet to the developers Insomniac asking them if they could do him a favor. "I need your help. This may be selfish, but I'm ready to propose to my girlfriend and want to do it in a big way. Is there any way you can put an Easter egg of Madison, will you marry me, anywhere in the game?" And the developers, Insomniac Games, and the people creating it actually went above and beyond here to put on the billboard at the movie theater saying, "Maddie, will you marry me?" But this is where the story kind of takes a turn, and I'll show you the video from the guy. His name is Tyler.
My girlfriend dumped me to go with my brother, basically throwing away the 5 years that we had together and spitting in my face, basically saying this wasn't even the way that she wanted to be proposed to, and just left.
So not only is he no longer with Madison, she now is dating his brother, which it was a strange turn to begin with, where he wanted to propose to this girl in a video game and have it on a billboard and everyone in the world could see this Easter egg. But just to have it strangely turn into now she's dating his brother made me wonder, what the hell kind of person does that? That's kind of an off-limits thing. You don't date someone's brother after breaking up with them. But that's not even the biggest problem here, which is kind of crazy to say, but he went really on a ledge here in asking a developer of a AAA title, one of the biggest releases of the year, possibly game of the year from many publications, millions of sales. It's on that billboard and she could care less about it, and that's just tragic at the end of the day. Now, Insomniac Games did reach out back to Tyler and say, hey, if you want us to patch it and switch up what you want it to say, we can do that for you, because we know this is probably a little bit awkward now. So good on them for doing that. But this story kind of reminds me in a weird way of that song, Hey There Delilah, where Plain White T's wrote this song about this girl Delilah that he was crazy in love with, but yet when the song got popular and she found out about it, she still didn't really care about the guy. And it's just really sad. I feel like there's a lot of guys out there that truly have these feelings for these women, and it's not reciprocated. It's just, like I said, it's very sad. And I truly feel bad for this guy Tyler, because he seems like a good dude. He removed the video that he originally posted discussing this, probably because he was getting a lot of controversy on his channel, but in all honesty, it was getting a lot of views, and I'm kind of surprised he took it down. Maybe he didn't want this video to define him and his YouTube career, but it was a very interesting situation, and if it were me, I probably would have left the video up just to let people know what the hell was going on. And speaking of videos, I want to shift now to the smashing video of the week. And this is a little bit different than what I typically cover, but it was so interesting and fascinating, especially for those of us who grew up with the original Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1, to see the intro remastered in beautiful HD. And it's brought to us by Warp Gazer. Did an incredible job on this. I'll show you a bit of it right here. It's just under 4 minutes long, but really shows you what Metal Gear Solid would look like if it came out for PlayStation 4. Now, because of the whole Hideo Kojima thing with Konami, I'm not really holding my breath on that happening, but man, it would be incredible.
They're demanding that the government turn over the remains of Big Boss. And they say that if their demands are not met within 24 hours, they'll launch a nuclear weapon.
And finally, I gotta talk about what's taking over the video game industry once again. And it's almost feeling like this is turning into an annual situation with EA, with Take-Two, with 2K, which is under the parent company of Take-Two, Rockstar Games, all these divisions of all these companies of AAA publishers going back to the direction of using microtransactions. And this is the worst part about it. I felt like after the big ruckus that everyone created last year with Star Wars Battlefront 2 that for one, EA would have learned from this situation and maybe moved past it and found a different way to try to exploit people. But it seems like they're just falling back to their old ways of how to find to get money out of people is the simple tried and true method of making it look like a mobile phone game and charging people to level up faster. And I always wonder about microtransactions because the whole point of playing a game is to enjoy the experience, to enjoy the grind, as long as the grind itself isn't too grindy, for lack of a better word. With a balance created with the actual adventure, microtransactions to skip levels and skip the grind should not be necessary. But for some reason, these game developers who are creating the games are creating a much more challenging grind to entice people to spend real-world money to skip levels to get to a place faster than everybody else. So it's kind of a weird meld of society and all these social pressures combined with online play and the ability to exploit people to take money from them in order to show other people how far they've gotten into the games. It's a scary proposition, to the point of Belgium has actually put a law in place calling this gambling, and all the other companies have backed down except for EA for some reason. EA is challenging this and are trying to make sure that this goes to court and the law is fought so that microtransactions will once again be allowed in Belgium. And that's really scary for anyone who's a gamer, because if this continues to be allowed, it only is going to be perpetually worse for the entire game industry until it ultimately causes the next crash and destroys everything, which might be what we need in order to overhaul what's going on. But before we get there, hopefully some sort of laws come into play where it stops all this. And I'm not one for wanting laws on video games, but in this case, I feel like it's necessary because there are people that have gambling addictions. There are people that are easily exploited. There are kids that have access to their parents' credit cards, and don't blame the parents because this actually happened to me where my credit card was on file with my Xbox Live and I didn't know that you didn't need to put a password in. It defaulted to not needing the password for whatever reason, and my son was able to charge my account for some sort of skin on Forza, and I had to go through all the settings, I had to contact Microsoft, had to go through all this hell just to get that charge reversed. So I see a lot of situations where money is being made unbeknownst to the people who are actually spending the money. And that's the major problem with microtransactions. There aren't enough safeguards in place to stop accidental purchases. And that's my number one problem with it. And like I said, number two, people with gambling addictions and problems with gaming and not being able to stop themselves. There's no safeguards in place for that right now, so there needs to be something done about that. But that's where I stand on the issue. Let me know what you guys think about this. How do you feel about microtransactions coming back in full force, especially with sports games? Do you feel like this should be on the actual player and they should be responsible for their own credit card and how they actually go about purchasing things? Or do you feel like the blame should fall on the publishers for trying to entice and extort money out of these gamers? Let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on that. And that's where I'm going to end this week's episode. I want to say a special thank you to all the Patreons with their pledges each month listed on the screen right now. You guys are absolutely incredible, and this channel could not continue without you. So thank you. If anybody out there is interested in joining them for as little as $1 per month to get early access to my videos, hit that Patreon link that popped up on the screen right now. If you're new to the channel, you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications. Hopefully YouTube works and actually notifies you. And if you missed last week's episode, I'll put a link to it right here. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay sexy.